If you were speaking to me as an agency owner, how should I be thinking about measuring those things and caring about those in my day-to-day running of my agency?
The way staffing agency should be thinking about itself right now is, how can I be inside the supply chain? There are major changes going on in the marketplace across supply chain. When you look at these fields, what's most important is to figure out how you can be on the inside of that workforce planning so that you're there early, you know what to expect, you can anticipate, and you can plan in advance so you can be responsive for customers in their moment of need. That's really the way that staffing is going. So speed at every point in the entire flow, from the employer to the talent and back, is now the name of the game. And that's really why we are Avionte is making a lot of the decisions we're making, and many of the things that we're working on right now is to make sure that our staffing agencies can be the most competitive in the market and can actually take on anybody.
Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you, Jason. Glad to be here.
Appreciate your time, and I can see on LinkedIn, you've got a vast amount of experience. So I really look forward to delving into what you've brought to Avionte and everything there. But before we jump into that, just love to hear a bit about your background. From ADP, your previous role to Avionte, strategy, and now moving into marketing leadership. What drew you to the staffing technology space, and kind of what unique perspective have you brought to the team?
Yeah, so I started in the human capital field back in the late 1980s. I've always been very interested in issues related to human resources, recruiting, succession planning, leadership development, and one of my most interesting consulting assignments early on was actually re-engineering the recruiting team at a large insurance company, back in the early 90s, and that spurred my curiosity. And I became increasingly specialized in working with human resource departments, with staffing and recruiting. And, I was in consulting for a long time. And then, from there, I moved into industry. And because I have a background in HR broadly, but also in staffing, that led me directly into a couple of roles within HR technology and human capital. When I was at ADP, I spent a lot of my time studying contingent labor and temporary labor. At the time, everyone is really fascinated by uh, by the future of work, and so you always see, you see like a picture of somebody sitting on a beach with their portable computer, and they're writing code, and they're trading Bitcoin, and they're playing fetch with their dog, and that's what work is supposed to look like. But the reality, when you started to go out and visit customers, is that work was non-exempt. It was a 9 to 5 job. It was it's like a nurse's aide helping somebody get out of bed in the morning, or somebody showing up at a factory plant. And I was always very interested in that aspect. When I was at ADP, I did a lot of research with ADP's data, and I was often spending time out with customers. And the customers who were having the most interesting challenges were all working with hourly workforces. Whether it's janitorial services firms, a transportation company that is trying to figure out how to, they'd have 2,000 employees, but 15,000 different job roles that they all used in a given year. And you would ask, how is that possible? And it was really that kind of background that got me very interested in staffing. And I can envision a future where we're looking at workforce on demand, and I see staffing as a natural extension of the current trends in gig, and in leading ultimately to this idea of a workforce on demand. So for me, it's a really exciting time. And there's a lot of interesting things to unpack in the current staffing market.
It is fascinating, isn't it? With I think, yeah, even just post-COVID, people's ideals about what does work mean to them, and the flexibility where possible, whether it's more the giggy economy, workforce. From a staffing, leadership, management point of view, I'm curious, like with your role, you've got strategy and marketing. Strategy is kind of the big picture, long term. Marketing's often, how we're getting good impressions or brand awareness. A lot of staffing are kind of thinking about that two-horse race as well. How do you kind of balance those two when in your role with the team?
Not very well. I mean, honestly, it's a little schizophrenic. Staffing is undergoing extraordinary change right now, and you really want to be in front of the developments that are happening in the economy. The thing about staffing as staffing operations, however, is that you are focused, laser focused on day to day. And you're literally staffing professionals are solving problems for customers on a daily basis, making sure that labor, you have the right labor, the right, the right talent where it needs to be, when it needs to be there. Um, and it's extremely challenging that way. I will say, however, that because we work at a technology company, we have to anticipate our customers' needs a good 3 to 5 years in advance of where they are. So while they're often focused on day to day, um, you know, we need to be that partner who's thinking out ahead and making sure that our technology is constantly where it's supposed to be, in the future. So it's a critical role. I'll also say that thought leadership is important in staffing. Um, it's important to be able to talk about something besides, what's the best way to do a cold call. You have to be able to engage employers, figure out what's going on in their markets, and that's going to be increasingly important for for staffing going forward.
Sure. It's a question I had for later, but I'm going to bring it up now because it's, just piqued my interest in terms of the major shifts in the staffing agency world. And I guess starting with, what's one shift you've seen over the last 12 months that really stands out to you, and how that might, translate into, potential changes or major shifts in the next 12, 18 months?
I would say that broadly, the value proposition for staffing is changing dramatically, and it's changing almost overnight. So the reasons why an employer hires a staffing agency are changing. Their expectations for a staffing agency are changing. The sales cycle to sell to an employer is lengthening. You have to jump through a lot more hoops. You may be filling out an RFP where before you were simply going through a sales call. You have to prove that you are compliant and pass various hurdles, even just to become a preferred vendor. And then once you do that, you may still not have a seat at the table. Um, I would say the other thing that's going on, though, is that there are such rapid changes occurring in the supply chain right now that it's critical for staffing agencies to be on the inside of their customers' workforce planning discussions. You need to be in the room, when the sausage is being made. And right now, there are decisions that are being made about where to relocate, entire logistics systems, distribution systems, even things like discussions of tariffs are causing people to rethink where they want to locate a plant and how they want to do it. And if you're a staffing agency, you have to be proactively involved in those discussions in advance. You can't be waiting reactively to sell to somebody in order to get that, and so staffing is becoming strategic. It's becoming value added. This the older style of what we would call Glengarry Glen Ross sales, where you've got a boiler room and you've got people cold calling. If ever that, that's not happening going forward. So I see the way staffing agencies are going to sell is dramatically changing. The way they're going to talk to their customers is changing. And the winners and losers, who's going to win and why, that is changing.
Certainly, Chris, what you've been talking through there about really client consulting, I love that. And I think as part of that, a lot of agencies also need to think about how they measure the performance of their staffing, agency and recruiters. And I love some of the stats you've got on the website, with Avionte, 45% increased fill rate, 221% improved redeployment rates, 6.2 days saved in cycle time, and 47% increase in gross profits. How would you, if you were speaking to me as an agency owner, how should I be thinking about measuring those things and caring about those in my day-to-day running of my agency?
Well, there are several things I would say. One is, of course, redeployment has always been recognized as an important tool, but it's going to become even more important now, given the wage inflation that we're seeing and potential for additional labor shortages in the economy going forward. Having a bench strength of talent that will stay with you and redeploy, reliable people who you have ready to go on behalf of your customer, is going to be absolutely critical, to the future of your agency. So that's one thing I would say. The other thing that I would say is important, however, is broadly is connectivity with with employers, and end-to-end connectivity means having a solid integration between potentially the vendor management system that an employer uses with our system, as well as having mobile capabilities. You may be aware that a couple of years ago, Avionte actually did something a little weird, which was we acquired a VMS. And normally, staffing agencies, when they think of a VMS, think this is an evil that is going to separate me from from the hiring managers that I work with at my employer. But in reality, the typical employer is working with anywhere from 3 or 4 to up to 8 or 10 different staffing agencies at a time. And even after you have sold to the employer, you are still competing for to place staff. Oftentimes, it's who can procure talent faster. If there is a way for you to actually have a full electronic integration between the employer and yourself, this actually gives you an opportunity for a larger share of wallet. It gives you an opportunity to be more strategic in the way you plan with an employer, and you know it also eliminates some of the administrative work that's associated with with double entry. And I think going forward, most employers going forward are going to be consolidating their purchasing of staffing services, and in fact, management of their entire contingent workforce, you know, through some kind of contingent workforce platform, VMS. So I think that's a very important consideration. The way staffing agency should be thinking about itself right now is, how can I be inside the supply chain? Okay. Um, there are major changes going on in the marketplace across supply chain due to tariffs, due to centralization of logistics. After COVID, cold chain logistics and food processing has been a huge growth area for many, for many staffing agencies. So, when you look at these fields, what's most important is to figure out how you can be on the inside of that workforce planning, so that you're there early, you know what to expect, you
Mm,
can anticipate, and you can plan in advance so you can be responsive for customers in their moment of need. And that's really the way that staffing is going. So speed at every point in the entire flow, from the employer to the talent and back, is now the name of the game. And that's really why we are Aviante is making a lot of the decisions we're making, and many of the things that we're working on right now, is to make sure that our customers, our staffing agencies, uh, can be the most competitive in the market and can actually take on anybody.
sure. And that really resonates in terms of, yes, there's a layer of you know, admin task and help some automation. Of course, that frees up time, makes the team more productive. And then there's this transformation of kind of almost the entire talent journey, isn't it? So right from your client, um, BD, right through to onboarding, and then all the talent management. Um, is that the way you're seeing things go? I think there's
Yeah.
often, you know, expansion and best of breed, or more like an all-in-one solution where staffing agencies really need to think about not just point solutions, but actually how does it all join up with data, automation, and of course AI.
Honestly, it's going to depend on the size of the staffing agency. When you're working with enterprise staffing agencies, they are not going to install all-in-one solutions, in one fell swoop. When you're working with a very large staffing agency, typically
Mm.
you're only looking at a front office or a back office or a mobile solution, or or VMS connectivity. Um, when you get down to what I would describe as the mid to large part of the market, however, there is an opportunity to actually do a full end-to-end, technology workflow where you can actually do that entire um, end-to-end flow. And my general point of view is that where possible, it's far better to have an integrated flow across, the flow across the platform is critical. Having a single
Mm.
system of record on which artificial intelligence can operate is critical, rather than having it broken up into pieces. And there there are some staffing agencies that their tech stack is set up so it's literally like, you do a task and then you flip it over to another system, and that system does a task and then flips it over to another system, and then you hire a third party integrator who's trying to figure out how to make it all work together. Um, that's a very inexpensive and ultimately not very flexible or adaptable approach. Far better to actually have an integrated end-to-end, workflows that you can actually adjust. It's also there's a huge advantage when you're applying artificial intelligence to enhance workflows, which is where the industry is going. So, we're able to embed, artificial intelligence into our core platform, as a SaaS, as a SaaS platform.
Mm.
And it makes a great deal of sense, to take that approach.
AI, of course, it's going to be a hot topic for a long time, and I'm sure we'll be at Avionte Connect, which is coming up. How are you seeing the best out there in terms of staffing leaders, maybe the operations leader, thinking about that planning of, it has to be fed and trained by the right data. The quality and cleanliness of the data is important. How are they going about trying to map that out?
So there are a couple of things I would say. One is that uh, artificial intelligence gives us an opportunity to rethink workflows entirely, and actually to rethink the role of the recruiter in its entirety. As an example, artificial intelligence has outstanding possibilities for working the top of the funnel, and using automated bots and various tools that enable you to, in a very cost effective way, bring in lots of new talent into your system. And separately, you can have artificial intelligence that you can devote or focus um, on talent scoring, and actually better managing the database of talent that you already have internally, and making sure that you are pushing redeployment to as high a rate as possible, and maximizing the return on your existing talent database, which is where you really get the wonderful economies.
Chris, fascinating. Love to hear all of your experience and insights to the industry. Conscious of time, respectful of your time. So let's wrap up. A few closing questions. While you probably can't give too much away, Avionte Connect is coming up very soon, and just love to hear kind of what's the plan, or what's the focus for Avionte for Connect, but also for the next 12 months ahead.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and by the way, I do want to say thank you to Ringover, because I know you guys are going to be at Connect, and so we're really looking forward to having you. Um, when it comes to Connect, I think that there are a couple of different things that we're looking to do. On the one hand, we want to be able to give our customers a vision for the future, and where the industry is going and where Avionte is going, and the technology, the direction of our technology, how we're integrating artificial intelligence into our product is very important. And I think it's not just the individual features, it's the underlying architecture and the plan that will enable us to innovate, continuously over the next decade, that I think is going to be so important. At the same time, a lot of our customers want to hear about all the details. What are those little features that they want, that are going to actually make a difference in the day-to-day work of a recruiter, the key things that are going to make it a little faster. I will tell you that compliance is a really important issue right now for a lot of our customers, and they're very concerned about ensuring that they are compliant, but not just that they're compliant, but that they can scale their compliance. When people talk about compliance and they think they're worried about an I-9 audit or an ICE raid, but the real issue is, do you have a scalable solution so that when you decide to open 5 new branches, that those branches can be compliant as well. And so it's a very important issue. So we'll be touching on that. And then of course we have all the Avionte partners who will be at Connect, and obviously we encourage our customers to, it's an opportunity when you've got 40 plus vendors in a room together, and you can actually sit down and find out all the different technologies that can connect to the Avionte platform, like Ringover.
Absolutely.
That's very, that's a really valuable thing that our customers do when they attend. And we'll have entertainment, and we will also have a customer center where, experience center where people can come and try out the latest features, give us feedback on specific products and product designs that we're working on. That all of that is really important to what we do.
Amazing. Certainly the Ringover team, we're looking forward to, attending and really, getting to speak with many customers and other partners too. And I will drop those in the show notes in terms of the details for Connect. And Chris, again, thank you for your time. Is there one closing comment you would like to leave us with in terms of what you're excited about the future, or something that, just to sum up, our conversation today?
I think what I would say is that staffing is changing at an extraordinarily rapid pace. Historically, it's been one of the most conservative industries, and one of the slowest to adopt new technology. And I think we are going to see a reversal of that over the next few years. It is going to become one of the leading users of technology, leading users of artificial intelligence. And I'm very excited for what the future of work is going to look like in 5 to 10 years with the tools that we see coming online, from the technology world.
Well, perhaps we should touch base for part 2 of this conversation, like 12 months time, and see how far we've gotten on that journey.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thanks again, Chris. And
thank you, Jason.
Yeah.